Western focus is on leading others. This is a Western concept. I'm not saying it's good or bad, right? All I'm saying is it's in stark contrast to the Oriental thought, the Eastern thought, the Indian thought, which is that you must first be a leader of your own self.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. This is your host Anushka at peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives more than 400,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Geetanjali Pandit. Geetanjali is a C-suite professional who attributes her success at work to the deliberate application of the teachings of the Buddha. Feedback Infra, EIH Limited, the India Today Group, the Indian Express Group, and Z Media Corporation Limited are all companies where she has contributed positively and significantly. Many times bringing innovation and turnaround in the people matters at these firms. In these modern and troubled times, Geetanjali has really been able to synthesize in her work and in her approach the much needed element of ancient wisdom, of spirituality with success. Her work now is global with the West, appreciating the authentic modern voice, the Buddha's teachings. Her readers have dubbed Buddha at Work as a life manual and a recipe to reclaim one's life. We cannot be more happy to have her today on our interview series. Welcome, Geetanjali. We're thrilled to be talking to you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's wonderful to be a part of your initiative. And I'm looking forward to whatever you're going to hit me with, in the next few minutes.
Thank you very much for taking out the time to talk to us. I really appreciate it, and the pleasure is absolutely ours. So diving right deep into the interview, Geetanjali, the first question I had for you was, can you tell us a little bit about your journey as an award-winning spiritual author and columnist?
Yeah, and I sort of speak about it and I write about it, and I'm also questioned about it on a number of platforms, including by journalists. Whether the chapter on when I'm pink slipped. There is a chapter in my book, Buddha at Work, called When I'm Pink Slipped. So as a lot of people ask me if it's semi-fictional or is it actually true, but it is true. I was because of a difference of opinion, something that sort of wasn't really intended but got blown out of context. I had a hard stop to my work as the CHRO for Z Media Corporation. And this was in December 2014. And I sort of struggled with the emotions that accompany sudden unemployment. I struggled with a wounded professional ego, wounded professional emotions, right? Because here I was with a fair amount of credibility, in fact, a huge amount of credibility, had done some tremendous work, terrific work, had people, search me out for my opinions, for my work, for the processes that I put into place, and for the absolute integrity with which I led my function and my team. And here, I found myself on the other end of unemployment. And I had been somebody who's been very compassionate in letting people go because everybody has very different circumstances, and so you've got to take a hard call as far as business is concerned, but you've got to be judicious and considerate when you do it. So I've, in fact, at different points of time, I even rolled out employment programs and reskilling programs for people that I was forced to for business reasons or for other reasons, compelled to let go of, right? So So 2015 became a tipping point, and I could have tipped over into a downward professional spiral, and it was very easy to do that because wherever I turned, I had people asking me, so what are you planning next professionally, right? And those are well-meaning people and friends and family, but they don't realize that. The impact on the person who's in that quest for meaningful employment and still soul searching as to what happened and why it happened, can be very painful. It's like somebody coming and putting their finger on your, on where it hurts you, and saying, does it really hurt? And, what are you doing about it? And, so that was 2015, and it was towards the end of 2015 that I thought that I must go back to a project that I had actually abandoned very close to completion, in fact, and that project was my book, Buddha at Work. And I took another deep dive into the teachings of the Buddha, and I tried to think through in my head and my heart, what is it that the Buddha would want me to do at this point of time? What is it that the Buddha would expect out of me? And what is it that I can do to help myself, to make sure that I remain sane and well and healthy? And not just that, I move towards, feeling professionally fulfilled. I think, a lot of times people are very successful, people are very wealthy, they've created a lot of wealth or inherited a lot of wealth, and they've scaled a number of milestones, professionally speaking. But a lot of people that I meet with in my C-suite work don't feel successful, and when people are not feeling successful, it can create a gap, which is terrifying, because here the world thinks that you've arrived, and you believe that you haven't really, and that sense of purposelessness and failure, and then an active sort of insecurity and even depression can set in. So it's very important for not only being successful, but feeling fulfilled and feeling successful. So I took that deep dive into the Buddha's teachings, and I was able to extract from it a lot of wisdom, which is applicable in today's time and age, in very simple and easy ways, right? And I am not advocating a religious kind of turn around for anybody, but these are timeless teachings, spiritual in nature, if you want to call them that, but actually just plain common sense or very sensible teachings, right? So and very applicable in the modern day, provided somebody doesn't cushion it with anything that it isn't really meant to be, because the Buddha was the first coach that the world saw. He was actually a people's coach, and he was this unparalleled teacher filled with wisdom and insight into human nature. And it's been my endeavor in my own way, unique way, that I was able to put together more than 20 years of HR work into and my overview of the struggle at the workplace, and how the teachings of the Buddha could provide an answer to that. So I was able to bring the two together. As far as my work as a columnist is concerned, I've always been writing, and I've written articles throughout for the Economic Times. I've written for the Financial Express. I've written for many others. For DNA, I did a column for DNA. So that's been ongoing. But Buddha at Work, now you have the story, the real story.
But that's great work you've done there, Geetanjali. First of all, huge congrats on the success of Buddha at work. And that's such a unique perspective that you bring, how you actually align HR with the principles and everything that Buddha as a coach really practiced back in his day. So that's wonderful. And yes, once again, I can't wait to get to know more about how the Buddha principles can be used today in the corporate sector.
Yes, sure.
So, going on to the next question, how would you say the ability to be selfish or selfless, if I may say so, has taken with respect to the pandemic?
I think, I'm so glad that you asked that question, posing both the ends of the spectrum on selfishness and selflessness. And I think from my personal experience, it's taught me to be, many years ago, I was very fond of the writings of Ayn Rand, the author of colossal works like Atlas Shrugged and Fountainhead. Um, uh, there is a little known essay by her, which she co-authored with somebody in a book called The Virtue of Selfishness. And if you ever have a chance, you must pick it up and try and read just that one essay out of that one book. So I think for me, the pandemic was about a focus on myself, not in an egoistic, selfish way, but in a way that made me understand how important it is for me to remain sane, how important it is for me to remain healthy in body and in mind and in spirit, how important it is to spend time with myself, in a way which heals me from the inside out, how important it is for me to make my own health a priority. And while I have been doing that over the last few years, especially given the nature of my own work, and I cannot be prescribing things to people that I'm not practicing myself, but the pandemic gave me a totally different perspective on how important my own health and my own well-being really are. And I mean that in very holistically in terms of my health, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and yes, financially. I've taken a number of steps in 2020 to focus on myself in a way that I haven't ever done before. So there's that virtue of selfishness. I'm a philosophy major, so my undergraduation was in philosophy. I studied philosophy for 3 years. And in first year of philosophy, you get to study something called logic. And so you study logic in different formats. Now, in logic, usually you can move from inductive logic to deductive logic and deductive to inductive. And I think the Buddha knew this very well when he prescribed that one must work for happiness of self and others. So it's not or others, only self, only yourself, nobody else. So it's happiness of self and others, because actually the two are very interconnected. So when I look at the pandemic and this bit of selfishness, it's also taught me from that sense of gratitude. It's taught me to look at the difficulties that so many people around us have faced, in this time, with not just compassion, but with an active spirit of trying to see what is the practical way of helping people out, right? So that's the virtue of selfishness for me in 2020.
Wow, that is great. So basically, the pandemic also has a silver lining to it because you started focusing on more on yourself and your inner aspects. And I really love the point where you said we need to align our spiritual, emotional, physical, financial, whether it's development or everything needs to be aligned. And I couldn't agree more with you. So thank you so much for that enlightening response, Gitanjali. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having asked such a wonderful question. I think, I mean, I really think this has been a transformational year for me.
Thank you. I'm glad. So, going on to the next question, can you tell us a little about Buddha at Work, the great book that you've written, and which has also been dubbed by many as a life manual and a recipe to reclaim one's life?
Yes, absolutely. So, it's been my honor and my privilege that the world has embraced Buddha at Work in a very significant way. And I am so happy and pleased to share with you. And so grateful that I can share this with you, that Buddha at Work is now touching lives in across 4 continents. Can you imagine that? When it was born out of so much emotional struggle, in 2015, little did I know that it would transform not just my life in the act of researching and writing it, but all the people who've read it and used it. So 4 continents, 8 countries, 3 languages, 6 editions, and more to go. Right. I think I was very fortunate somehow that that struggle led me to bring out my finest creative self. I mean, if somebody asks me, how did you come up with this very unique concept of, a fiction style narrative, and juxtapose it with the Buddha's life so seamlessly, I would just have to say that it's not me, really, because, these things cannot be learnt or taught or, imbibed from somewhere. It was a moment of, it was my eureka moment when I conceived of this notion. And of course, so many people, contributed to the development of the thought, whether it was from, my wonderful Indian publishers here, because they're the ones who sort of set that ball in motion, and, my husband, who became a very good critic of what I was writing. Of course, if he carries it to an extreme, then it leads to a lot of friction, so I better not read out from my next forthcoming 2 books to him, but I still like to use him as a sounding board. And I think the fact that it has these little nuggets of wisdom embedded in very easy to use terms, in very readable terms, is what sets Buddha at Work apart. It more or less defines the genre business inspiration, because it falls into the broader category of business self-help, yet it's written, fiction style. It's got narrative, which is moving fiction style. It is hugely autobiographical. It is hugely influenced by the events of my life and some of the events that others have shared with me. And, of course, they've been named throughout the book, the interviews that I did of some very accomplished people. All of that is captured there. But the fact is that, if somebody would have said you can write a book like this, I mean, I would have said, I don't think that's possible. But I think everything gets an energy of its own. Every attempt at creativity has its own purpose, has its own life, has its own, life, I guess, is how I would describe it. And with that, work is no different. It has a life of its own.
Wow, that's wonderful. It's lovely to see how you had so many people's contributions in this one book. And no wonder it's such a tremendous success. And personally, I would love to read Buddha at Work because it's more on spirituality plus today's corporate world. And I think it's really relevant to our times. I'm guessing it's more on how to foster more belonging at work.
So here I'm in conversation. My character is in conversation with this tall, handsome young man called Gautam. Okay. So Gautam says to me, you are the author of your own life. And I am, hugely emotional and very reactionary to that. And I say, so what do you mean when you say that I'm the author of my life script? And without missing a beat, he replied, what I really mean is that you alone can help yourself because you are the one who creates the life you lead. And the very first step in that direction is to stop blaming others for your problems. Blaming others means that you are not taking responsibility for your own life. Holding others guilty for your suffering stops you from doing what you need to do to lead your life in a better, healthier, and more successful way. It is your approach, your attitude, and your behavior alone that determines your happiness or unhappiness. He tells me this.
Wow, that was great. That was just amazing. The small excerpt itself, I think, spoke volumes about what the book has in store for us. So I'm sure our audience are really going to check it out.
Thank you. I hope they do.
Absolutely, will do. So, Geetanjali, another thing I really wanted to ask you was you hold expertise in speaking to people about HR and its related aspects. So, as someone who has had many transformational conversations with people of different age groups and organizations, big and small, do you think it's a skill that leaders should possess?
I think yes, I think the question cannot lead me but to answer yes. But before you can have a transformational conversation with anyone, you've first got to have a transformational conversation with yourself. Something that I am constantly speaking about, working on, especially when I work with large organizations and when I'm coaching people, is on leadership of the self, because the Western focus is on leading others. This is a Western concept. I'm not saying it's good or bad, right? All I'm saying is it's in stark contrast to the Oriental thought, the Eastern thought, the Indian thought, which is that you must first be a leader of your own self, right? So you want to call it mastery of yourself, you want to call it emotional self-control, you want to call it insight, you want to call it leadership of yourself, whatever you want to call it, right? The fact is that you first got to have a transformational conversation with yourself before you can even begin to transformational conversations are best done from a point of view of intention. You can have an accidental transformational conversation, with, somebody said something to me and it's such a profound effect on my life that it transformed me in some way. Awareness, yes, counts, but awareness of the self is the starting point of any transformational conversation outside. A lot of people ask me why I've dubbed or why I've called my book discussions and my motivational speeches transformational conversations. It's a concept that I was the first to bring about, and I use this even in my new courses, my signature programs coming up, and my new website. These are transformational conversations, and the starting point of those is the fact, they're solidly based on the fact that I'm grounded in reality. I need to work for a living. I've got huge corporate experience. I struggle to find my own balance and my own sanity and my own way, because I have two very young children, two young daughters. I've got to do the fine balance, right? If I had quit everything, if I was sitting in some solitary ashram by myself, or if I was part of a large religious order of some kind, and then I was preaching or talking about, creating and finding balance and happiness and sanity, then I am many steps removed from the struggle of the common person, right? Here I am the common person, and I am striving to keep encouraged myself, struggling and sharing something out of my own struggle with somebody else, saying, this may be of help to you, because whatever I am struggling with, I am extremely solutions oriented. I only work, so if I have a problem, I work very, very hard, very single-mindedly to find solutions. I find solutions in science. I found so many solutions in neurology, how the brain functions, found solutions back in the Buddha's life, and reconcile those with what modern science is saying, with what neurology is saying. So what I'm saying is not in some isolation. It's not coming out of someone who's isolated or removed a few steps from the madness of the world around. We all occupy a world which is in which attention span is an issue, in which diversions and disturbances are far more, distractions are far more. They abound around us. We live in a world where technology has hijacked a lot of us, actually, and we don't realize it. And life in 21st century urban cities is complex, right? You could be living in rural, some part of the world, or in a very small backward part of the world, and perhaps a lot of these things would pass you by. But there are problems inherent in life, and then there are problems inherent in the complexity of the 21st century life, right? So you've got to find solutions that speak to both, right? Problems inherent in life. As the Buddha said, there is birth, there is aging, there is death, right? So, and there is suffering in life. So those are problems of life. If you look at problems of the 21st century, then it's that level of complexity that we all have to deal with. One of the bigger issues that we all are faced with today is that the support system, the social support system, the support provided to us by extended families, by the elders of the family, is not there, right? So motivation then becomes an issue, right? If I'm feeling down and I've come home, and let's say I've come home, my husband has got his own business worries, he's got his own struggles, my children are expecting me to provide them with solutions. How do I keep motivated? How do I bring my best self forward, right? So those are very interesting questions of the century, very unique problems. And I believe I have arrived at some of the answers, not all of them, but I have arrived at many of the answers.
Wow, that's incredible. And I really like how you raised some very pertinent points, and something that every one of us is grappling today, how to keep ourselves motivated, whether it's at home, whether it's just doing a new, and engaging in something new, learning something, or whether it's at work. I think it's really the need of the hour. And that's something that it's just a drive within before we actually look outside of us. And I really love how you said that you need to know yourself so that you extend that kind of empathy and support to the ones outside.
Yeah.
So that's great, Geetanjali. Thank you for that valuable insight you provided us with. So just to kind of wrap this interview up, do you have any passing remarks you'd like to leave our audience with?
I think the quest for happiness leads us to believe, or society leads us to believe, and the way we are conditioned from literally from the time that we are born, and sometimes till the time that we die, we believe that happiness will happen or will follow. This degree, that job, those marks, that boy, that girl, the right life partner, the right address, the right car, getting over the EMI, the promotion at work, the increment which is in high double digits, the bank balance, losing weight, stopping hair fall. I mean, I don't know. It could be anything. Parents' ill health, children's growth, once they finish school, then I'll be happy. And so on, right? So we are constantly postponing happiness. We are actually constantly postponing life. I just want to share with the young people out there that don't postpone life, don't postpone happiness, and don't make happiness that special event which will happen once in 365 or 366 days. It's not going to happen on some bright morning when there's going to be a blue moon, and that's the one moment you'll be happy. If I look at these so-called big ticket items of my luxury car, or my promotion, or my increment, or my boyfriend proposing to me, or my girlfriend accepting my proposal, or my having a child of the right gender, and my family sort of supporting me with something and something. Or the time when I'm in perfect health and I'm in perfect shape and I've lost just the right amount of weight, or I've got whatever. Then it's that rare event, isn't it? It's that once in a blue moon event, and it's not every day. Surely we don't want to spend a life of 70 or 70 odd years where we are happy just 70 times. We've got to have a much higher multiplier for our happiness, because happiness is all that we live for. Even when we want to earn money, we believe that earning money will bring us happiness. So it's not that we are targeting to have money for the sake of money. We're targeting to have money for the sake of something else, which we believe will bring us happiness. So it's important that we understand and establish the happiness habits now, rather than postponing them, and rather than postponing life. So that's what I would share with people, is that start living now, start being happy now. And that's important.
Wow, that was wonderful. It's lovely how you ended the whole interview on such a positive and inspiring note, just to look for something that makes us happy, have gratitude in our lives, and yes, just live every day happily. That's just wonderful. Geetanjali, thank you so much for that lovely.
Thank you. Thanks a ton.